Please be seated. I'm sure almost everybody here is glad that you have the first reading. With all those hard names to pronounce. Yeah. They're talking about in that reading, although that's not the main focus of what I'm going to be talking about. Here Nebuchadnezzar is surrounding the city. And the king, Zedekiah, in his last year of reign, because they will soon break through the walls and conquer the city and destroy the temple, is Jeremiah still trying to wake the people up. Unfortunately, to no avail. People have been blinded by money. They were blinded by money in the time of Jeremiah. They were blinded by money in the time of Jesus. And they were blinded by money in the time of Timothy and Paul. We're blinded by it too. You think about our culture. And we measure people sometimes by how big their house is, how big their car is, where they go on vacation, not just the backyard, but maybe to Virginia Beach, maybe if they're really wealthy, to Europe. Just that people come back and say to me, we just spent a week on the Riviera. Great, I'd never be there, but I'm happy you were. And, there's something that's interesting. The letter from Timothy, or to Timothy, is quite interesting. That saying, the root of all evil is money. It's not that money is bad. It's that money seems to blind us to what really matters. Money can get us something that is material, a house, a car, clothing, vacation, a number of things. And those are things we can see and touch and enjoy. But the spiritual, we don't see that. And therefore, we don't seem to understand its value as much. When we were driving down, Lauren was looking at something from USA News, I think, that talked about a man who was 35 years old. His father was wealthy. His father, even though he's 35, it really never works. His father basically bought him an apartment in Manhattan, and paid for all his expenses, and gave him $1,000 a week as fund money. And then the father started to get kind of tired of this and decided to reduce the fund money from $1,000 to $800 a week. And the son killed his father. He's now going to jail for 30 years. All that money, all that, most of us would say, wow, apartment in Manhattan, $1,000 a week. Amazing. But he obviously was not happy. He obviously had his priorities all mixed up. I lived in Princeton for 25 years, and I had to raise $1 million a year to help our charity that I was director of. And one of the people I had to go see was this elderly man whose family had a large amount of money that came from oil. And this man, because he didn't want to give the money to the government, would give out grants, $500,000 each, to the full amount of $5 million, and every year. And people would go and they would basically, prostrate themselves in front of this guy, beg for the money, and he loved the fact that they were begging. He was not a nice guy. But everyone in town genuflected to him because he had the dough. His wife was on my board, and she was lovely. And he started having an affair with another woman. His wife was confined to bed and was very hurt by what her husband was doing. And one day, and I knew this from the people who worked for this man, the woman who he's having the affair with goes up into the bedroom where his wife is resting and says, "Remember these earrings? They were yours. Now they're mine." When she died and he married this other woman, none of his staff would go to the wedding. He fired them all. When he died, a lot of people came to his funeral. In his mind, he had bought his way into heaven. No, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. If you're giving money for manipulation, that's not quite the same as really genuinely trying to help. If you're demanding that a building is named after you, that's not the same as really trying to help. I think I told you the story of one man that came to my office one day, and he was suffering from depression. And he said to me, "In my lifetime, I've only amassed $5 million. And my friend who graduated from Harvard Business School with me had amassed $50 million. I consider myself a loser." And I said to him, "Well, tell me about your friend." Well, the friend had been married a number of times. His kids didn't want to come anywhere near him. And I said, "And tell me about you." And he had a close relationship with his children. People loved him. His pastime was he would take like furniture from the church one by one, chairs and things, and bring them back to life as sort of a hobby. I said, "Well, who's really wealthy here? Your friend or you?" I always remember Homer once said, "The journey is the thing. The journey in life is what defines you." I said to a number of people, if life was going from here to the front door of the church, and by the time you got to the front door of the church, you had no money left, would you be a success or a failure? And they'd always say to me, "Well, obviously a failure." And I said, "Well, no. Life is defined more by who you become than what you attain. And so if you're interacting with people along the way down this corridor to the end of life, and you're growing by those interactions, that growth which is inside of you, no one can touch. No one can steal that. No downturn in the economy can take it away from you. When you die, it goes with you. When you die, your money does not go with you. Even in the Bible, the book of Ecclesiastes talks about the fact, it's said to be written by King Solomon. And the quote is, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Here's a man who, he said, "I'm a man, I've been the king, I've had many concubines, many wives, I've got all kinds of money, I was the king of the country, I had a number of chariots and charioteers, and I'm going to give it all to my kids, so I'm going to die." It's all been like nothing. It's got a chasing of the wind, vanity of vanities. So my point is that we don't want to be as blind as those people were. We want to see what life is really all about. And that really brings you to the prime reading, which is the gospel. And Jesus tells this story. There's a rich man. He wears the finest of clothing. Purple was very hard to come by. And so he's clad in purple. And he eats sumptuously every day. And just outside is Lazarus, the poor man, who is hoping to get the scraps that fall from the guy's table, and he doesn't even get that. And the dogs come and lick his sores. And they die at the same time. And Lazarus goes to heaven, and the rich man goes to hell. And the rich man still kind of, imperiously says, Father Abraham, hey, tell Lazarus this nothing to come and give me water. And here is what you need to pay attention to. Because then Abraham says, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. There's this vast chasm between us that cannot be crossed. And therefore, you're stuck where you are. I can do nothing for you anymore. Basically, Christians and Jews do not believe in reincarnation. In other words, that you get another chance. I was playing golf last week, and we were talking about this with one of the people I was playing with, because there was a mosquito around. And they said, there's plenty of people who wouldn't even kill a mosquito because they think that maybe that was somebody that had been reincarnated. Because I said, well, he must have been a really lousy person to be reincarnated as a mosquito. I could think a dog, but a mosquito. The point here is that, no, you get one shot at life. This is it. And the rich man says, well, warn my family, warn my brothers. I have 5 brothers, so they make the same mistake I made. And Abraham says, no, I'm sorry. They have Moses, they have the prophets. If they pay attention to those things, they should wake up. And, but if someone from the dead goes, they'll pay attention. No, even if someone rises from the dead, they may not pay attention. And here we are, a couple of thousand years later, and very few people go to church. Very few people pay attention to the man who rose from the dead. Think what will happen when you and I die. And we say, give me another chance, and what is God going to say? Look, I gave you Moses, I gave you the prophets. All those prophecies were fulfilled in my son, Jesus. Jesus performed many miracles. The blind could see, the lame could walk, the deaf could hear. He raised Lazarus from the dead. He himself rose from the dead. His apostles died maintaining that was true. 500 people said they saw him after he rose from the dead, before he ascended. You've had 2,000 years now of theology. You've had great cathedrals and buildings that should make you realize that there must be something to this, because why would people spend that kind of time and energy on these buildings? And you still don't get it. You've had more than enough signs. Even if you were an atheist, it's very apparent, that life doesn't last forever. It's very apparent that there's a time limit to this life of ours. We learn from morality, that morality is based on experience. If it hurts us, it's bad. If I decide to have an affair, I hurt my wife, I eventually really hurt that woman, I myself am robbed from the intensity of a relationship that is committed, and I suffer. Therefore, don't do it. If I jump off the Empire State Building, I don't look so good when I land. That should tell you, don't do it. So what I'm saying to you is that even life itself are signs. And so God is saying to us, just as Paul said to Timothy, just as Jeremiah, told the people of Judea, and just as Jesus was telling those around him when he told them the story of the rich man and Lazarus, wake up. You only have one life. You can't live it again. Take advantage of every day. As I told you many, many times, the purpose of every sermon by every priest on every Sunday is the same. Carpe diem. Seize the day.
Amen.